Hi, you are listening to me, Loretta Nash. You are listening to the Loretta Nash Lore's blog, and I'm going to finish reading this a mirror essay called "A Mirror for Artists" from this book that I got at the library called "I Will Take My Stand." Whoa, I forgot it again. Okay, so. Uh, I was on page 52 and started on page 53, so I'm going to go ahead and start here at this place because I remember this part. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and I think I got 55, 57, 59. Get a few more pages to go. Oh boy, this is getting interesting about this. Uh This about this art. This is 1930s. We are up here in the 2000s. Actually, in the 2020s. We just got through with the pandemic, or attempting to. Okay, let me get where it is. Okay, on page 53, its population is homogeneous. Not the way is what the is means different 100 years ago. Okay, its people share a common past, which they are not likely to forget. From aside from having Civil War battlefields at their doorsteps, the Southern people have long cultivated a historical consciousness that permeates manners, localities, institutions, and the very word and cat, cat, cat cadence, cadence of social intercourse. Yeah, it's got big fancy words, and you really think about it, it actually is true. Because besides here where I'm at, here in West Memphis, there's battlefields. You go over here to the Forest City. There's battlefields. You go across the river to Memphis. There's all kinds of things here in Memphis. Then you go down to Mississippi. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. They're basically really for sure in my doorstep. So that's why this essay kind of hits home because I am Southerner. I am a Southerner. Okay, I had to make sure I got what I got. Okay, this con consciousness ugh, consciousness too often misdescribes as merely romantic and gallant romantic and gallant really signifies a close connection with the 18th century European America that has some elsewhere forgotten. In the South, the 18th century social inheritance flowered into a gracious civilization that, despite its defects, was actually a civilization, true and indigenous, well diffused, well established. Yeah, when I went down the Blue Mountain, it pretty much was, but see, we was raised farm and uh, a lot raised a lot different. Even though it's modern. Okay, its culture was sound and realistic in that it was not at war with its own economic foundation. It did not need to be paraded loudly. It was not enough about particular. It was not through about. It was not thought about particularly. The manners of planters and countrymen did not require them to change their beliefs and temper in going from cornfield to the drawing room, from cotton rows to church, or frolic. They were the same persons everywhere. There were also a fair balance of aristocratic and democratic elements. Plantation affected frontier. Frontier affected plantation. The balance might be illustrated by painting. By pairing, it was not purely aristocratic or purely domesticated South that produced Thomas Jefferson or Andrew Jackson or Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson, John C. Calhoun, and Andrew Johnson, Poe, and Simmons. There was a diversity within unity. Yeah. So Edgar Allan Poe was Southern? Yeah, kind of think about it. And this being after Halloween, so kind of thinking about it. Okay. There also leisurely devotion to family and neighborhood, local self-sufficient and self-government, and a capacity upon those the 60s for developing leaders. Above all, the South was agrarian. And agrarian it still remains very largely. Whether it still remains its native inborn way of ways is a question on the argument of the minds of those who know the South mainly from hearsay. In the South itself, especially in its scattering and diluted industrial centers, there is much lip service to progress. The more because industrialism makes a very loud noise with all its extravagant proclamation of better times. And the South is known hard times only too well. Yet probably the secret ambition of most Southern city dwellers, especially those in apartment houses, is to retire to the farm and live like gentlemen. There are still plenty of people who found the brassy method of tradesmen a little counsouth. The Southern tradition is probably more vital than its recent effort. Oh, big word. Ephantopus, Ephantophilis have announced. Ugh. If it were not alive, even in the younger generation, this book would never have been written. But these are considerations which are touched upon elsewhere. My business is to consider to what extent it offers the kind of society we are looking for. One must allow that the South of the past, for all its ways of life, did not produce great art. The obvious retort to such a criticism would be, neither did the rest of America. Also, I might say, as it is frequently said, that the long quarrel between the Southern Aquarianism and the Northern industrialism drove the genius of the South largely into the political rather than the artistic field. A good case might be made out, indeed, for political writing itself as a kind of art in which the South excels in as in forensic art. Forensic art. Yet this is not the whole story. So far as the art have flourished in the South, they have been, up to very recent period, in excellent harmony with their milieu. The South has always had native architecture adapted from the classic models into something distinctly Southern, and nothing more clearly and satisfactory belongs where it is, or better expressed, the beauty and stability of order of life, than the old country homes with their pillared porches, their simplicity of design, their shuttered groves, their walks bordered by boxwood shrubs. The South has been rich in the folk arts and is still rich in them. In billiards, country songs and dances, in ballads, country songs and dances, in hymns and spirituals, in folk tales, in the folk craft of weaving, quilting, furniture making. Though these are the best preserved in mountain fastness in montaining fastnesses and remote rural localities, they were not originally so limited. Yeah, a friend of mine said when she just moved out to that other one place, that's all they had was a quilting bee. Um, she of course was a pastor's wife, and she moved out there. And she's so used to being up here in the my church didn't have a quilting bee. They had cooks and all, but she moved to a place where they had a quilting bee, and she tried something else, and it didn't. Uh, I ain't seen nothing else about it anymore. That was a few years ago. Okay, let me get back to this. Well, I may go ahead and stop here right at this moment. Yeah, it looks like I need to stop anyway. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here. Yeah, the friend of mine, she's, of course, they got offered a different place, and, um, I always wanted to learn how to do quilting, because that's what my mama did and my grandma did, and it's still kind of little hard to piecing those pieces together, but I tried, and I didn't like it. Even though I got a sewing machine, brand new. Well, a good working sewing machine. I hadn't had a chance to sit down and do it. Okay, you are listening to the Loretta Nash Show, Lore's blog. If you please subscribe, and the next episode will be here in a little bit, and I'll finish this. A Mirror for the Artist. I'm gonna finish this out, and then I might figure out something else I want to do and start something different. Okay, and I'll see you in just a bit.